Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is connected with the session. I'm Anjana Ratnayaka. Today, we're going to discuss about the financial reporting of Sage application. So in today's webinar session, we're going to discuss following content. First thing is introduction to financial reporting. Next thing is setting the design area of the report and defining the formula of the report and basic design of the financial statement and generate and printing the financial statement. So I'll start the FR creation now. So I have already logged into my Sage application. So in Sage application, in order to create these financial reports, you need to go through the following folder path. First thing is to get it into the general ledger module. Inside that, you can see the sub module called financial reporter. In that financial reporter, you can see two different components. One thing is print financial statement. It is the place where you're going to print your each and every FR. So the next thing is statement designer. So this is the place where you're going to design your each and every FR. So before I start the FR creation, I would like to tell you something, because in order to create any FR, you need to fulfill following requirements from your Excel. So Excel is the type that where we're going to create these FRs. So first thing is to have each and every time 32-bit version of Excel, which is compatible with the current Sage version. So it's must, because instead of 32-bit version, you can't create any FR using the other bit version, which means the 64-bit version. So basically, first thing is to have the 32-bit version of your Excel. And the next thing is you need to have the Sage add-ins in your Excel. So I'll show you how to add those Sage add-ins and how you can check what is your Excel version. So I'm going to start the FR creation from the statement designer. So once I click, it will pop up me a particular window, and I'm going to click the start button, and then it will open the Excel file. Okay, yes, it has opened me an Excel file, and as you can see here, SAMDAT, this is my, since I am logged into my sample database, I can log into my sample application. So you can ensure that before you start an FR application, you can ensure that what is the current DB that you are logged in. What is the current database or the current company that you're logged in through the Sage. So I'm ensuring that. And the next thing is, since I want to check my Excel version, you can go to the file, and in that file, you can see a particular component called account. In that account, you can see my current version. So 32-bit version of this is my Excel version. I can see each and every details from here. So next thing is I'm going to ensure that whatever the necessary Sage add-ins are there, and I'm going to add in those things. So in here, at the moment, I don't have anything. So I'm going to add this thing here. Yes. And in here, so then after, you can ensure that in the add-ins, I have this particular add-in called FR. So now I have whatever the necessary Sage add-ins in my Excel. So I'm going to start the FR creation. So basically, today I'm going to create a TB. It is a very simple FR. So I'm going to create the TB using my FR statement designer. And Before I start, I would like to tell you something on this. In this Excel, first 4 columns starting from A to D, those columns will always dedicated to the following details. So first column will be always to define your account details, which means the account number. And the next thing is if you want to restrict any data, you will have to always define on this B column. And if you want to omit any kind of data, you can always use this column C. And in the column D, you're gonna use the detail or the summary wise. You're gonna define that whether you want this report into the detail wise or the summary wise. So these 4 columns will always keep as blank when you're starting your FR creation, and going forward we can define anything over there, such as any criteria any conditions we can define it using these 4 columns. So basically I would say this will be my design area, and I would say this will be my design area, yes. And I'm gonna start from column E, defining my column names. So in here, I'm gonna put account as my first column, and in column F, I'm gonna put the description. Column G, I will always put my credit, and respectively in column H, I'm going to put the debit balance. So, and in here, I'm going to use my report as trial, report name as trial balance. Okay, yes. And now I have defined my column names and the report name. Now I'm gonna provide whatever the necessary data information to these 4 columns, which means I'm gonna start doing the data restriction and defining the required data. So in the first column, like I said, before you start anything, first thing is you'll have to always define this 2 backward slash, because this will always identify, this sign will always identify the following highlighted row as your formula row, which means, let's say if you do any kind of restriction, you have to do it via the formulas. So if you want to define any formulas, you will have to always define on this row. Yes, you have to always use these 4 columns, but 4 columns, and going forward, yes, you can use any other columns as well. But most importantly, this sign will always indicate that this row will be your formula row. So whatever the formulas that you need to define, you will have to always define in this row. So at my initial level, I will use my chart of accounts, all my chart of accounts into this TB. So I'm going to put 2% marks in my 4th column, A4, in my A4 cell, since I'm gonna define whatever the account details in my first column. So in here I'm defining like this, and this will always indicates that I'm gonna use whatever the chart of accounts in my GL to this report. So yes, I have already used it, and since you want to have all the values in these 4 columns, I'm going to use this backward slash into all these columns, since I want to represent whatever the values on these columns. And before I start anything, then I'm going to define my formula into the first column, which means I have to define the account ID in the E column. So what I'm going to do is, using my add-ins, I'm going to define the formulas. So in that formula, in that add-in, you can see my FR weave is there. FR paste is the place where you're going to define your formulas. FR clear is the place where you can clear your FR and you can start the recreation. And going forward, you can see the FR options and the drill downs and the FR help. So most importantly, since I want to define my formulas, so I'm gonna use FR paste as my formula, FR paste to define my formulas. So in here, you can see for each and every function, you can see there are separate things are there. So if I want to define any formula relates to FR account basic information, I can click on the FR account. If I want to define any formula relates to the balances, such as the amounts, so FRAMT is there. So FRAMT A also very similar to the AMT, but there is a difference between FRAMT and FRAMT. I'll discuss with you later. I mean, once we start the FR question, I'll explain you what is the difference between FRAMT and FRAMTA. And if I want to get the debit balances, I can use this function, going for credit function, posting details, transactions, such as the transaction, debited transaction, credit transactions. You can use these things. And if you want to define any selection criteria, you can use this selection criteria. So likewise, and in here, you can select what is the row and or the column, and you can put these formulas into that column. So since I have selected E2 as my first column where I'm going to define this account ID as the formula, I'm going to use the FR account function. In there, I can see the account ID. So I'm going to paste it. Once it pastes, you can see in the background, you can see this was modified with this formula. And in the next column, I want to get the account description. So without wasting any time, I'm going to skip into next column, and I'm going to paste my account description. And likewise, since I want to get the credit balances into the next column, I'm going to use the balance. Sorry, I'm going to use my credit balances in the next column. I'm going to paste it, and even for the next column, I'm going to get the debit balances, and I'm going to paste it. So I have given whatever the necessary formulas to my initial FR, and I'm not going to restrict anything at the moment since I want to take the report for the whole accounts, or I'm not going to omit anything, or let's say you're not defining anything over here. So I have already said that this column will always be dedicated if you want to get the report into the detail or the summary wise. But since I'm not putting anything over here, this will always comes into the detail wise. If you want to take the summary, you can put the formula as T. So it's like that. Since I'm not going to take that in the first column, I'll not at the first attempt, I'm not going to put anything over here. And one thing is sure, in the TB you know that at the end there is a summary for the credit and the debit balances. So I'm going to use the simple summation formula, and I'm going to place it over here. I don't have to use FR place for that. And like I said you previously, these signs, these backward slash will always represent the value of each and every detail. So which means this, for this account column, this backward slash will always represent the account ID. If you don't, you have to use, if you like, let's say if you don't want any value, you can, you see, since I want to take at the first attempt whatever the columns, all the columns, I'm going to use all these things over here, and I'm going to put it. And before I generate the data, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ensure that my design area will always within this. So why I'm doing that? Once you do that, only the data, the necessary data, the expected output will be coming in your report. So I'm going to ensure that the spec area, how are you going to do that? In the formulas, you can see the name manager there. In the name manager, you can see that at the moment you don't have any spec. So I'm going to create my design area and I'm going to specify it over here. So I'm going to ensure that this will be there. So next thing is I'm going to get the expected outputs over here. So in the FRB, I'm going to take the details into the current period, and I'm going to do it. I have generated the data. So how I did that? I went to the FRB, and it gives me the parameter window. I have selected the current period. I just okay. So then what will happen? It will generate the credit and debit balances for each and every account. And at the bottom, it gives me the total balances for the credit and debits. Okay, right. So now I'm gonna save this into my desktop. It's saved as TB. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to generate the data through print financial statement for the newly created FR. So I'm going to click the print financial statement and I'm going to browse the desktop. I'm going to browse the newly created FR and first thing is I'm going to ensure that I'm just only previewing the file, and in here you can see whether if you want to take this report into a direct print, you can use the print, and if I want to take the preview, you can pick the preview. If you want to take the this print into a file, specific file method, file format, you can use the file and can ensure you can just specify anything over there, or else if you want to direct mail, you can use the email function. So since I want only to preview the file, I'm going to use the preview when I have defined my okay, it has opened my TB and it generates the data. Yes, you can see my trial balance report, and these are the Excels. You can create according to your format. This is not mandatory. This is a very simple FR I have created, and this is how it comes, but you can just specify your columns and everything over there as you want. And you can see at the end of the report the total value. So this is how you're gonna generate your FR, and this is how you're gonna create your FR. So I'm going back to the basics. I'm going back to the statement designer. So in that statement designer, I'm gonna open my report. Yes, now it's there. So like I said you in the previous this is the formula row, and I haven't omit anything or I haven't restrict any data. So first thing, what I'm gonna do is I can see some zero balances over there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna omit these things. So how I'm gonna do that? I'm gonna in the C column, I said that we are using this C column always for data omission. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put Z as Z will always represent the zero balances. So this will represent this. So I have put the Z over here. So let's see what it provides, whether it's previewing or whether it gives me the expected output. So in the FR view, so I'm gonna regenerate my data. Let's see whether it's omit the zero balances. Yes, you can see here it has already omitted the zero balances. I cannot see anything relates to zero, right? So next thing, let's say if you want to restrict something, such as like you want to get the data of the, let's say 01. I have to count 01. Okay, so in the first, I want to view the data only in the first account group. So how I'm going to do that? So in the FR paste, I'm going to use this selection criteria. In the selection criteria, I'm going to take my account group and I'm going to specify 01 because in my sample database, I have a account group called 01. That's why I am defining this as 01, but you can define whatever the group code in your company or in your application. That's you, but in here I'm using 01 as my account group, and I'm gonna paste it, and let's see whether it generate the expected outputs. In the FR view, I'm gonna regenerate the data. Yes, it gives me whatever the accounts in the first account group. Okay, so the next thing is, so initially I have said that at the initial FR creation, I have said that I'm going to use all the chart of accounts in my first report. And now I'm going to restrict this report with some accounts. Okay, so I'm going to give an account range. So how I'm going to specify an account range? So I'm gonna remove these formulas for the time being. So in here, let's say I'm regenerating the report to get the idea. Yes, so I'm going to use first 5 columns, first 5 accounts into my report. So I don't want any other account. And let's say if I don't know any other group code or any other restriction, so I'm going to put only these accounts. So how I'm going to do that? I'm going to specify it over here, my starting account as, okay, I'm going to put the colon, but make sure that this cell, when you're specifying account range, this should be always a text cell. You can't have any other type or any other number format over here. So I'm gonna use my starting account as 1000, and I'm gonna use my ending account as 1023. Okay, let's see whether it generates me the expected results. Yes, it generates me the values only from 1000 to 1023. Okay, and let's see, you don't know range as well. Okay, and you're going to take the accounts from here and there. So let's say you want to take the account, the balances of petty cash account and the bank account Visa, which means the 1000 and 1022. So I'm going to put, and I'm going to separate these two accounts using the comma, and I'm going to put 1022 and 1000. Let's see what it generates me. Yes, it generates me the balances only for these two accounts what I have defined over here. So these are the simple things that you can do at the FR creation, and this is very simple FR. And now what I'm going to do is, at the introduction I have said you that there was a particular functionality called FRAMT and FRAMT the formula. So I'm going to show you the difference now. FRAMT. Okay, now I'm using these two columns as the amount 1 and amount 2. And I'm going to define my formulas for these two columns. Use first thing, for the first column I'm using FRAMT, and in the next column I'm using FRAMT. Okay, you can ensure this as FRAMT, this has FRAMT. Okay, first I'll show you the results, and from the results I'll explain you the difference. Okay. Now, in here, you can see these two columns are very similar, right? I say no, there is a difference between these two columns. What is the difference? As an example, if you take this thing, so FRAMT first amount column will always, this will always shows you, this will shows you as a debit balance, but this will show you as a credit balance. How? Basically, FRAMT function will always consider the type of the account, which means, let's say, if a debit account will have a debit balance, and if a credit account will have a credit balance, that will always showing a positive figure. But somehow, if a debit account has a credit balance and a credit account has a debit balance, that will show you by a negative value in the FRAMT function. But in the FRAMTA, it's totally different from FRAMT. Why? Because FRAMTA will consider the actual balance, which means, let's say if a debit account will have a credit balance, doesn't matter. Since the actual balance is a credit balance, that will show in FRAMTA, it will show with a minus figure. But if somehow a credit account has a debit balance, that will show in the FRAMTA with a positive figure. So it is the difference between FRAMTA and FRAMT. So likewise, I'll take another thing, another formula, and I'll explain you the difference. Let's say I'm gonna take the transaction detail. Okay. In my transaction detail, I'm going to put this as the formula, and I'm going to define the value, and I want to take this thing into the report. And I'm going to ensure, since I have modified my design area, I'm going to ensure that whether it has whether it's taken by my spec, still not. So I'm going to redefine it. Okay, yes, I have modified it. And I'm going to generate the report. Okay, it's okay. You can see here, there is a small comment in each and every column, what it provides. Let's say if you want to get the transactions from the column, let's say if you want to take the transaction history for each account, how you're going to do that? You're going to take this transaction detail, and in here you can see, as it showed you in the comment, you can right click on it and you can click on this FR drill down. So what it shows is, it will shows all the transactions relates to this account for the current period. Okay, for the current period. Since this account has the journal entries, it showed you the period and the date and the source code with the amounts and everything, and the batch number. Most important thing is the batch number, and the entry it shows within this function. So I hope this function will be very useful when you creating your own FR. So likewise, TRNA also will always shows you without considering the counter, which means it will showing with a, if actual balance is a credit balance, that will showing you with a minus figure, and if the actual balance is the debit balance, that will shows you with a positive figure. So likewise, these things also you can use, and you can check and see what those functions will provide as your data. So this is a very basic FR that I have created in here. So I hope you gained some knowledge, you got some idea about the FR creation through this webinar session. So if you have any questions, you can raise me right now, or you can send us any queries to csu@zillione.com. So then we will provide our assistance by taking a team session or via phone call. We will be able to assist you within a short period of time. So I hope you enjoyed the session and you got some idea about the webinar and the FR creation. So thanks for your participation and have a great day. Thank you.